circle. I was doing work, sitting in the cul-de-sac, contemplating murder. Swerving with my circus, looking for a purpose. Pseudo clean record, hope got another surface.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 14 of Culper's Canteen Cup. We really appreciate you guys listening out there. Appreciate you spending some time with us. And want to thank Carlton Zeus for that intro music. That's Alpha Child. You can check out more of Carlton's music at Apple Music or carltonzeus.com. Hey, so one of the things that we've been doing here at the Cup is, we really have tried to highlight small businesses, some of them better known, some of them not better known. But to help everybody out, one of the things that we wanted to highlight today is it's not necessarily a business, it's more of a business service. It's called Veteran Owned US. You can find it at veteranownedus.com. You can find it on Facebook and I believe Instagram. And what it is, it's a repository for veteran-owned businesses. So head on over there, check it out. It's full of veteran-owned businesses. I've lost count of how many they have. It's every type of business, every type of service, product you could imagine. Not only are you helping out a small business, but you're helping out a veteran business. And obviously veterans are near and dear to our heart. So head on over to Veteran Owned US and check them out. And so I'm going to turn it over to Roger. And Roger is going to kick off this episode.
Hey, Canteeners. Thanks, Josh. Good plug at the beginning, especially with the veteran-owned businesses. So, last episode, we talked about Lieutenant General Flynn, one of our more popular episodes. It seems like our Canteeners out there really dug it. Some pretty good downloads pretty quickly. And we're starting to see more and more fallout from the whole Mike Flynn, fiasco. So, kind of want to touch base real quick. Last week, Susan Rice had an email that was declassified. So it was originally classified as top secret for whatever reason. You can see they crossed it out and they published it. And I just want to read. You can go on there and Google it and find it yourself. It's only a one-pager, but I want to read one of the paragraphs from it. Now, mind you, this email was sent to herself on 20 January 2017. So obviously, the day of the new administration, and it was talking about a meeting that happened on 5 January. So I want to read this one paragraph. Director Comey affirmed that he is proceeding, quote unquote, by the book as it relates to law enforcement. From a national security perspective, Comey said he does have some concerns that incoming NSA Flynn is speaking frequently with Russian Ambassador Kislyak. Comey said that he could be an issue as it relates to sharing sensitive information. President Obama asked if Comey was saying that the NSC should not pass sensitive information related to Russia to Flynn. Comey replied, potentially. He added that he has no indication thus far that Flynn has passed classified information to Kislyak, but he noted that the level of communication is unusual. So this kind of goes back to a little bit of the topic that we were talking about in the last episode, that you have the outgoing, incoming administration. They're saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't pass all of this information to the new administration. So Luke, I kind of want to ask you real quick, relating to the email, just that one paragraph. At what point does this become treasonous? Or even, you look at subversion, right? I mean, doesn't that fall like the classic definition of subversion?
Yes, I think so. I think it does. But this, like we were saying before the show, this stuff is just so transparent to me. I look at it, I'm like, yep, okay, dirt. I see dirt. I see it everywhere. It's just, it's so frustrating. I'm having a hard time putting my thoughts together, because it's like, how do you boil down a concept like 2 + 2 = 4, and actually have something to me, talking about this for 15 minutes is like talking about 2 + 2 = 4, or an apple is red, or the sky is blue. It's like, I have sent myself emails before, but across accounts. Like I get an attachment in one email and I'll send it to my other email, but never once in my life have I sent myself an official work email. To me, it's so transparent. It's a cover your ass thing. It's just subversion. So getting back to your question, not passing information to the incoming administration. Why? Is it because you thought Flynn was a spy? Okay, why? Why did you think that? Because he was having too many conversations with the Russian ambassador? Well, that could be seen as irregular, but does that mean he's a spy? And if so, declassify it. Tell us what the deal is, because I would say that the three of us are median intelligence. Median, meaning half the people in this world are smarter than us and half the people are dumber. So 3 dudes of median intelligence are able to see through this. Tell us the whole story. Why did you think Flynn was a spy? Why, or whatever you thought, why would you not pass that information to the incoming administration? Now, I've seen, how State Department does things, protocol with ambassadors and deputy chiefs of mission and things like that. And I do know that it's not odd for an ambassador to talk to someone who's the equivalent of the national security advisor, especially with a transitioning administration, to make things go smoother. Because after all, Russia is armed with enough nuclear weapons to totally annihilate the United States, China, and so it's important to be on good terms with them, to be completely transparent and understand what footing they are. Now, I'm going to give Flynn the benefit of the doubt that he was trying to do that. Okay. I've got way more to say on this topic, but I'm going to pass it to Josh. I do think that withholding information from the incoming administration, especially when it has to deal with Russia, I'm going to stop short of calling it subversion, but I do think it's very serious. And sending an email to yourself saying we're doing things by the book just makes it smell like shit that much more to me. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, no, I agree. But, they say, well, they may have thought that, Flynn was a spy, but they didn't think that because they already knew that he wasn't, because Comey had already said that the CIA investigation into Flynn needed to be closed. So they already knew he wasn't a spy. They had the transcripts of the phone calls with Kilsiak. So, yeah, I'm probably a little, below median intelligence. I would say probably 75% of the country is smarter than me, but I don't need to be super smart to know that, because you already recommended that your CIA investigation be closed. Why? Because there was nothing there. So this just proves what we already knew, right? This just proves that not only was the investigation into Flynn political, the whole Crossfire Hurricane investigation into Trump was purely political, and that's just what it was. And a lot of people are not willing to admit that. And, even, as of yesterday evening, the FBI director, Ray, finally came out of his basement and he listened to our podcast, baby. And
long-time listener.
Yeah, there you go, man. We need to make him an admin here at the Cup.
Top fan.
That's right. Get him that top fan badge. And so now he has ordered, an investigation into the, conduct of FBI personnel as it pertains to Crossfire Razor, i.e. General Flynn. So the truth is coming. It's going to keep coming out. People just need to keep digging, and it's all going to come to light.
Or you can, talking about this Susan Rice email, I've been listening to a lot of Tim Pool podcasts lately, so I've got to highlight this before Roger cuts in there. I just put in a simple Google search, Susan Rice email, and I think that the media nowadays is pandering to that lower 50% median intelligence, lower 75 for Josh, says John. But I'm going to read you these headlines. Okay. CNN.com. The Susan Rice email isn't any sort of smoking gun. MSNBC. After Susan Rice email backfires on right, GOP pretends it means something. New York Post. Susan Rice's email exposes Team Obama's treachery. Susan Rice slams dishonest accusations about declassified. Oh, party foul. That's USA Today. I'm saying that, back to, we addressed Robert's question about doing your research. You type in a simple Google search and I just ran it down for you. They're telling you how to think about this stuff. You have to read it all and make up your own mind. Okay. So sorry to cut you off there, Roger. Go ahead.
No, you're good, because you're absolutely right. The media is coming out to defend the Susan Rice email, and the media shouldn't be doing that, right? I mean, they should just be laying the facts out there, and you make your own decisions. And that kind of comes to, it's a different topic, but, I think we touch on it later with Tara Reid and the lawyer and her allegations against Biden, how CNN did some investigative reporting. And because of that, the lawyer has now dropped her as one of their clients. So again, the media, as opposed to being, unbiased, hey, let me lay it all out. You decide, you read it, take in all the info, understanding that you may not have all the information up front, right? So, I understand that. You put what you have out there, you do some critical thought, some analysis, and then let people make the determination based on what they have. But it is clear that the mainstream media has an agenda. They've got a certain way they want the ball to fall, and they're going to, pimp those headlines, especially if you look at like Drudge Report, right, which used to be a big supporter of the Trump administration, falling out there. And now it's completely anti-Trump. You read every single headline, it is something, negative towards, President Trump. And so, they grab those, it's clickbait, right? They throw these headlines out there to get you to click it and go read the article, whatever. And then half the time you get down in, like, this really doesn't even have anything to do with this. And the headline is just there for, Josh mentions, all the Twitter followers, 140 characters or whatever, because most people, and we all see it on social media and Facebook, they don't even read the article. They just read the headline, right? And it's like, man, how are you going to get on there and make a case for anything? And all you did was read the headline. You didn't even take the 30 seconds to read the article.
No, and that's, and again, I've said it before, that due diligence is a lost art in this country. Woodward and Bernstein, I can't imagine what their opinions of the current crop of, quote unquote journalists are. Here's another interesting thing. So remember the judge, so Sullivan, in the Flynn case, after the DOJ said we're dropping charges, he came out and was like, no. Well, I'm not going to honor that. We're still going to look into this. So an appeals court came up and was like, you need to explain your decision, right? Well, let me riddle you guys this, and I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV, but why would Judge Sullivan need to hire a private attorney to respond back to that appeals court? You're a judge. You're a federal judge, bro. You can turn around and talk to you and say, no, this is why, blah, blah. Well, Washington Post just published an article. He's hired a pretty high profile private attorney in DC, and they will be speaking for him now. Why is a private attorney speaking for a federal judge? I'm telling you. I mean,
he could be learning from General Flynn and his lack of using an attorney at the time. So, nope, you know what? I've seen this play out in court, so I'm hiring, and
maybe, but it's bizarre, and as they say, man, something is rotten in Denmark, and we know that. Man, the truth always has a way of finding the light. It always has a way of finding the light. It may take a while. It may be years from now before we know everything, but the truth is there. We're seeing it more and more every day. This is bigger than Watergate by far. People are still in denial. The never Trumpers, they're still in denial. And, the other question I got is, where's all these fucking Republicans at? Where are they at? Why are they not beating down the doors? Why are they not on TV every day demanding answers? Right? Where are the Mitch McConnells? Where are all these other people who every time they get in front of a camera, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to do that. You're not hearing a whole lot from them right now. And that's interesting.
What's the dude's name? Bad with names. Who's heading up the investigation for Barr right now into all this stuff?
Horowitz?
Yeah. I think their marching orders might be let Horowitz finish up and then let's give it the full court press around August, September. That's my prediction. That's Nostra Lucas's prediction. I think they're shutting up, letting him do his stuff. letting people dig their holes, and then this thing will rear its head in August, September. Maybe.
Maybe. You know what? Maybe I don't have a lot of faith in the system. I don't have a lot of faith in either side of the aisle. I have zero faith in career politicians, regardless of whether they have an R or D, after their name. You heard, and this is an unpopular opinion on the conservative side, but you heard people talk about Trey Gowdy for years and how awesome Trey Gowdy was, and how, what a lion that Trey Gowdy was, and how he always got to the bottom of things, and Trey Gowdy never let people off. That dude was nothing more than a bunch of hot air. And every time I see people on social media talk about, oh, Trey Gowdy's on this, dude, whatever. It's going to be the same thing. Trey Gowdy's going to be like, I want some answers. As soon as the cameras turn off, that dude's out of the room, man. He's out of the room and doing whatever Trey Gowdy does. They've
got their own interest to protect, right? I mean, that's part of it is, well, I can't dig too deep into this because then somebody might turn that camera around and start looking at my stuff going on. So it's whether it's Democrat, Republican, or independent, right? It's like they're not going to eat their own. I mean, come on, let's get real. They're not going to eat their own. I guarantee when these cameras roll off, the camera's cut and, Mitch looks over at Schumer's like, hey, man, you almost had me there with a little teardrop in your eye. You almost had me. I mean, you have to protect your own, right?
You do. And it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting what's going on in Washington. The swamp is still, it's as swampy as ever. I don't think a whole lot has been done to correct that. Trump has tried, but at every turn he's got both Republicans and Democrats stonewalling them. Just look at Paul Ryan when, Trump got elected. That guy is a fuckstick.
Where's she at now? She sounds like a nice lady.
Yeah.
One good thing about this whole, we've strayed far from Susan Rice's email, but one good thing, I'm just, I try the little things for Lukester. I'm just so glad I haven't had to hear Adam Schiff's bullshit for the past couple months. I'm so glad that guy went away. Oh, man, there are silver linings.
No, absolutely. And Adam Schiff, I can't believe that dude is the head of the House, Intel Committee. Like, he was on TV and Twitter. Dude, he was on Twitter like a 16-year-old girl, tweeting every day about how he has, this empirical evidence. It's in plain sight of Russia collusion and this and that and all that, right? And he was on TV giving interviews and said, I've seen the evidence. And then nothing.
And old James Comey, man, he's sweating like the pig that knows he's dinner. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Dude,
and then going back to the email, so guess who else was at that meeting, on 5 January? Guess who else was there? So you had, obviously President Obama was there. You had Director Jim Comey, Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, and President Biden, the guy who knew nothing about anything to do with Flynn. However, unmasked him, that was on what, the 8th?
He unmasked him.
So he was unmasked on the 12th. Right. So unmasked him January 12th. So 7 days prior, he was in this meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No, and the other, you go back and look at it, right? So Vice President Biden, by the way, at the time, you said president.
So, sorry. Freudian slip. Shit.
Biden, Biden's going to have to explain that one at some point. Like, he's going to have to explain why 8 days prior to the inauguration, he unmasked Mike Flynn. Like, he requested unmask, because there's absolutely, at that point, there's zero reason to unmask him. None whatsoever. And somebody needs to ask the question, why did the White House Chief of Staff need to unmask Mike Flynn? Why is the White House Chief of Staff at the time put in a request to unmask an American citizen? I'm sorry, I don't believe you were a part of neither the intelligence community nor the law enforcement community. So why are you submitting a request, and why was that approved?
Yeah, and where are the hearings on it, right? I mean, you talk about, the conservatives. It's like, shouldn't that be like, hey, I want to know what authority you had to request the unmasking. I want to know what you were going to do with the information, because whether you like him or not, General Flynn is a, U.S. citizen, and he's got some rights.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that is the silence, the deafening silence that I'm talking about from the right, man. The Senate and the House, it should absolutely start be having hearings on this. Why? We want answers, and the American people, we talk about them. We talk about Joe Sixpack. Joe Sixpack, man, you need to hop out your pickup truck in Tupelo, Mississippi, put your Milwaukee's best down and start demanding some answers, because I'm telling you, man, if they can do this to a retired 3-star general, imagine what they could do to you and I, people, we kind of beating a dead horse at this point, but people are absolutely just so quick to give up their rights, and allow these abuses. It's insane.
Well, and I'm hoping that now, and this is kind of one of the our next major topic here, but you're starting to see, there was a subpoena issued, right, for Burisma in the Biden probe. So going back to Vice President at the time, Biden, presidential candidate. So now you're starting to see, well, okay, let's look into this Burisma stuff, because, you obviously had the impeachment, right, with Donald Trump, and whatever he did, whatever you see on one side of the aisle or the other, I mean, you're not going to change any minds or change any opinions. But before I run down the notes here, Luke, I mean, don't you think that regardless of however that business was carried on by President Trump, I mean, if there is some corruption going on there, and it tied into, at the time, the vice president, I mean, don't we have a right to look into that? I mean, shouldn't we know about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, Rudy Giuliani doesn't look so crazy now, does he? He
was like Jose Canseco, right, with the steroids. Like, oh, yeah, well, everybody was actually.
I mean, I remember there for a while. I was like, man, Rudy, God, you just be quiet. But that guy was saying the whole time that Biden, sought the dismissal of Viktor Shokin, the Ukraine's top prosecutor. He was looking for the dismissal in order to protect his son and Burisma. Now, well, there's no evidence of that. I mean, but come on. That's exactly what was going on. I find it interesting. You can say what you want about John Kerry or whatever, but his stepson, the Hines kid, was on that board already, Burisma. Yep. And when he heard that Hunter Biden was coming on board, he's like, no. He said, this does not look good. The optics are bad, and it's not just the optics. It's just like, come on, he can't be on the board. But he was hired to be on the board anyway. And that bleeds over into, the $391 million of military aid that was frozen, before the famed telephone conversation between Zelensky and Trump. But Biden, he's on tape bragging that he got the prosecutor fired. So, I mean, again, I go back to the Susan Rice emails. It's like, hey, if it looks like bullshit and smells like it, man, it's reeking through the whole house, and you put your hand in it and you're like, well, it's warm, it's steaming, it must be bullshit, right? I mean, it's also simple to me. What am I missing something?
And before you get farther down that road, let me give a little rundown on Burisma Holdings and kind of this whole situation, because I think, again, going back to, people see the headlines but don't know some of the intricacies involved in it. So starting 2014, Hunter Biden, he started working there on the board. He served on the board until 2019. And from their own press release, he was in charge of the holdings legal unit, and also will provide support for the company among international organizations. So that was from their press release. That, of course, I think a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, Hunter then came out and said, well, I was never really in charge of anything there. Okay, so several years removed, he says, I wasn't really in charge. And going back to what Luke talked about with John Kerry's stepson, so there's some history there, because they have actually served together with several different business opportunities where they basically created a company, or, they had a network of investment and consulting firms, and they were dealing with international businesses and organizations that were affected by U.S. foreign policy. So, it kind of takes me to, I don't want to, pose this for an answer yet, but if you're a lobbyist, it means because you have some connections. Now, with Hunter Biden, I mean, he really has no political pull other than his dad, right, who was the vice president at the time. So, it's not like he actually knew folks. He had some connections. He had some swag or some clout. It's from who he knew. So he was placed in charge, was paid up to $50,000 a month. That's a lot of money. Paid up to $50,000 a month. Of course, this all happened right after Russia annexed Crimea, which that's another topic by itself because, you had all this Russian collusion and this and that. I'm like, man, we just sat through that, right? I mean, that happened during the Obama administration and nobody blinked an eye. At the time that happened, the AP and several watchdog groups came out and like, hey, man, the optics of this thing looks really, really bad. Maybe you shouldn't have him on the board because prior to that, Hunter Biden was in the Navy Reserves, and several months before that, he was discharged because he popped hot on a cocaine test. Right,
Navy.
So
hell of a drug.
Yeah, Navy. So here's the thing. So okay, being involved in a small business, I have a clause, for my participation in the business, saying certain things I can and can't do, and if I'm convicted, I give up some things, and so you were the Ukraine's largest natural gas company, and you have no problem with the optic of hiring somebody that just got discharged from the Navy Reserves for popping hot on cocaine. So I mean that tells you there, right? I mean there was obviously some pressure. So now what they're looking at is, possible influence on Joe Biden, right, as the government started looking into corruption. And that goes to where Biden had the prosecutor fired and all that other good stuff. So, Josh, let me ask you this. So you've got all that stuff going on. New subpoenas opened up. What's the end result here? I mean, what are they looking for? What's going to be because one thing I don't want to do is go down this rabbit hole, right, and just spin up a bunch of nothing. So what's the objective here? What are they looking for?
Well, I hope that the end state of this, and I hope that the objective of this is to hold people accountable. However, past behavior, past actions is the best predictor of future behavior. I'm going to say that nobody's going to be held accountable for this, and the double standard between the average American citizen and those within government, especially those with money and power, are going to keep on getting to do whatever they want to do. Here's the best way to boil this whole thing down with Biden, right? Why was Trump impeached? Well, not only did we drag Trump through an impeachment, we drugged the country. We drugged the entire country through an impeachment hearing because somebody said that Trump was quid pro quo with the Ukrainian government, right? He tried aid to
them investigating.
Yeah, the investigation, to investigate Biden, right? That's exactly what Biden did. Biden tied the aid that Luke's talked about to firing the investigator while he was vice president. So people are now advocating, right? People are going to go out and vote for a guy who did the exact same thing and then bragged about it, right? There is irrefutable evidence that Joe Biden did a quid pro quo. They're going to go out and vote for this guy while in the same breath saying that Trump should have been impeached for doing allegedly the same thing. Like it's absolutely insane.
But I think we have a cause for the Burisma piece, right? I think we have a reason. You can serve two purposes, right? It can be, obviously, it was a political ally or a political enemy, and that's what you were looking at, and that's what they were trying. But you can serve two purposes. So, yeah, maybe it did serve that purpose, second, third order of effect. But I think as Americans, if we've got tax-paying dollars going to a country, going to a company, there is some alleged corruption. I think we have a right to know that, especially when you look at they talk about Russian collusion. Hey, is it too far-fetched to think that Hunter Biden had some influence, had some favors with his dad at the vice president, as the vice president at the time, Luke?
Hey, well, yeah, that's exactly why he was. Well, it was a dual purpose, to have a little bit of iron in the glove there, having Hunter Biden on the board to have, some influence at the presidential level, at the office of the president, the vice president, but also to hook his son up. I mean, that's how we all know that's how people get rich. But I'll tell you this, these investigators that are going to descend down upon this thing, I have a suggestion for them. There is at least one hooker in Kiev who knows the whole story. And she got it straight from Hunter Biden. And there's probably a few little Hunter Bidens running around.
Well, we know there's at least one, right, that he didn't want to pay child support for.
But in Ukraine, where there are no laws of child support, a little bit more complicated. I guarantee there's a hooker that knows. If I was an investigator, I'd be looking at all the high class hookers there in Kiev that were obviously
probably a
servicing
dealer to go along with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And those people will talk, man. They want to tell their story. So I guarantee you, this investigation is not over. You'd agree with me about the hookers, Josh? Your face kind of lit up when I said that.
No, absolutely. all I wanted to throw in there real quick is, hey, if you're a coke dealer or a hooker in Kiev, Ukraine, and you have information on this, we would love to have you on the show.
We would give you all the airtime you need.
Yep. Hit us up on Facebook.
Yeah.
Listen to the episode of We're Going to Get You High, and you'll love it.
So is Biden, is he finally out of the basement now, or is he still stuck in his basement home in Delaware?
Well, I think he popped up real quick to tell everybody who wasn't going to vote for him that they're not black enough. And then I think after the ensuing backlash, I think he dropped back down into his basement.
He didn't even say enough. He said, "You're not black.
Oh,
you
yeah.
ain't. You ain't black.
You ain't black."
Unbelievable. And and I've got people telling me personally, but I'm reading these things and listening to these sound clips, and they're like, well, if you're white, you have no reason to be outraged about that. Black people do, but white people don't. And it's like, I'm not outraged personally. And now we're really going off the rails here, but I'm not outraged personally about the stupid comment he made. I'm outraged at the hypocrisy. I mean, right. Imagine, it's the hypocrisy that's just on full display. It's just unbelievable, but it is entertaining. It is entertaining.
Sheila Jackson said it was okay because Biden said it, in jest.
Okay, so we can say the N word as long as it's in jest. Sheila Jackson,
apparently, according to Sheila
unbelievable.
Jackson, as long as it's in jest, apparently it's okay.
That woman is the worst. That woman is the worst. Don't get me started.
Yeah, it's just like you said, it's not, what he said, like, I'm not offended by it. Here's the thing with being offended, right? When somebody says something, you have two choices. You either ignore it or you come back and you address it and you counter their point. Being offended is not a valid third option, right? So what he said, it didn't offend me. I don't give a shit. But like you said, the hypocrisy, right? The pass that he gets and that a lot of folks on the left get for saying shit like that they will vilify and burn to the ground other people, for doing that same thing. It absolutely.
Now, I will say this, other than Sheila Jackson and one or two other individuals they've had, as I scroll through the interwebs and all that other good stuff, you are seeing a lot of left-leaning outlets that are like, yeah, there's really no way to spin that positively. You just kind of F that up. And, Joe, you might want to go back in the basement. So, Luke, I mean, do you think granted, you've got a million gaffes to choose from Joe. I mean, dude, it's like, for those of you that have kids, it's like watching your son, play at a piano recital or shoot free throws or, it's just like, I'm so, my gut just wrenches, right? Because I don't want my boy to mess up and I don't want my daughter to mess up. I don't want her to fail and it's going to be embarrassing. So it's more gut wrenching for me than it is for the kid being out there doing it, right? So, I mean, do you think you think his PR folks, I mean, are they like watching their own kids, out there shooting a free throw for the winning free throw for the game?
I feel bad for him. I really do. It's just, can you imagine just having that meltdown listening to that? Because they're in the room with him when he says that. And, it does the thing with the smoothing the hair down on the legs and I play with cockroaches and all this stuff. It's entertaining. It's entertaining, but at the same time, it's scary because this is a guy who, I mean, I want somebody to come on here or comment and say, there isn't a serious problem with Joe Biden's state of mind. It's a serious problem. It's either Alzheimer's, it's something. And, you have the commentator that came out, I can't remember which CNN or somebody, and she wrote an op-ed saying, I don't care, she was being, hyperbolic, but she was saying, I don't care if Joe Biden eats boiled babies, I'm still going to vote for him. And it's like, you've got people who will vote for this man, knowing in their heart of hearts that he's sick in the head, and he's going to get up one evening to go downstairs and smooth hair down on his legs and get a cookie. And he's going to take a wrong turn and go press the red button. Now, it's not going to be that, crazy, but you can't have somebody mentally ill serving in office, yet half the country's going to vote for him, which I don't know. I'm still not convinced that Biden will be the nominee. And if he is, I disagree with Roger a little bit. I think that it's going to be an absolute blowout. I don't believe any of these polls. I think it's going to be a blowout. I'm like, that makes me nervous because I'm as confident as Hillary supporters were in 2016. What do you think, Josh?
The more I thought about it, I tell you, before COVID and everything, you're like, okay, yeah, Joe's going to be the nominee. I mean, Bernie was never going to be the nominee. So for you guys out there feeling the burn, I'm sorry, the DNC was just not going to allow it to happen. They were going to hose him again, and you were going to sit there and you were going to take it just like you did in 2016. You were just going to sit there. You're going to take it on the chin. You're not going to say anything. You're going to be upset and you're going to complain, but you're not going to do anything about it, right? Because you didn't do anything about it last time. And don't think we've let you. Side note: don't think we've let you boogaloo fucks off the hook either, right? Your number's on the docket, right? So it's coming up. So stay tuned. I don't think Biden is going to be the nominee at this point because I think they truly believe with, the economy. And granted, we'll see what happens over, the next couple of months. But come convention time, man, if the convention were today, I'm going to tell you right now, they would not have Biden as a nominee. They would pick somebody else because you can't ignore it at this point, right? And I feel bad for the guy as a fellow human being. I feel bad for him, but he is in cognitive decline, and you just can't you can't avoid it. The left, they are not going to be able to ignore that. Could you imagine what would happen right now in a debate with Biden?
Oh,
the way he is right now. Dude. Think about how he's going to be in a debate in 4 months from now. Like it would be a bloodbath. And I don't think Biden's going to be the nominee. I think they're going to get to convention and they're going to be like, Biden's going to be like, I got some health issues. I got to step, I can't, I got to, focus on my family, blah, 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 blah. Right. And so I think that's probably more than likely what's going to happen. The DNC is a mess right now. Their coffers are empty. They don't have a lot of money. Barring anything catastrophic, I think November again, man. I think you're going to see a blowout. Dude, California District 25 flipped in California
by a lot. By a lot.
It wasn't even close. And so I think you're seeing more and more signs that it's going to be a blowout in November, and especially as more information comes out about Crossfire Hurricane. More information comes out about how, the DNC and Steele and Fusion GPS, and Comey and all them, the information that they used against Trump. Think of what Trump could have done, in the first couple of years of his administration, had they been able to focus on actually implementing policies and getting things done, other than, focus on these bullshit investigations, this bullshit impeachment. I'm hoping in my heart of hearts that a lot of people see that and people get to the polls in November and they blow these fucking clowns out of the water. I really hope.
I'd like to see a blowout, but it's the quote that Luke just read, right? I mean, you've got 48 to 52% of the country are going to vote that way, regardless of who you put over there. I do think that the only way that he is not the nominee, if you're a Democrat, you're in the Democrat Party, he's got to be your nominee. You can't upset the foundation. I mean, after what you've done to Bernie the last 2 times, and Josh, I think he hit it on the head. He might be sitting there injecting himself with coronavirus right now. right? Because that's the way out is, a health concern comes up, because I was just pulling it up. He's going to be 78 years old come November. So, I mean, going back to Luke's earlier point that he made several episodes ago, it's like, maybe they are trying to lose. I mean, there's obviously no long-term play. I mean, could you imagine, you look at his cognitive state now, okay, and obviously I don't have anything else than what we all read about, and what we witness and what we see, but this guy gets elected at 78. You see where he's at now. Could you imagine what he's going to be like 7 years down the road? Ooh. Right? I mean, so there's no long-term play there. So I truly believe, going back to what Luke said before, I think the Democrats want to lose. It's like, hey, it's the John McCain thing. Let's get him out there. Let's get a good showing. Let's raise some money. Voters will go to the poll. It'll be close, because they're all going to be close now, I think, unless people just don't show up, which could happen, but it's going to be close. And, we'll have a good showing, and Donald Trump will win. And then, because it's tough to beat an incumbent, I don't care who you are, Democrat or Republican, it's tough to beat the incumbent. And then we'll gear up, for the next 4 years and bring out their next candidate. The only thing that I worry about is, hey, let's get real. Had Hillary got off her fat ass and gone to Michigan, she might be the president right now. So I just, as I look at the Trump campaign, and I don't think he will, because, historically he hasn't shown this, but it's like, you know what? Don't underestimate him, right? That's why you play the game. That's why you vote. Polls and all that other stuff, that's all the strategy and all the opinions and all the other good stuff. But, voters still have to get out there and vote. And, I'm hoping the Trump administration takes this as just as much of a threat as it was when they were running against, Hillary Clinton.
Well, I think Michigan's governor is working really hard right now to get Trump reelected. So
I'm going to walk back what I said a second ago. I don't think he's going to be the nominee. I should say I won't be surprised if he's not. That said, I still hold to they're trying to lose, but it's like they're cutting their losses, like the McCain thing, like you said, Roger. But that brings up another point. That means it's going to be very important who he picks as vice president. And that may change my calculus a little bit on who I think he's going to pick. Because worst case scenario for the DNC, you pick a strong candidate for vice president that you can groom, get him some practice, have him throw some zingers at Mike Pence and Trump, get that practice, get people excited about it. Still going to lose, but you get them some practice. Hey, we've got 2020 just around the corner. I'm sorry, 2024 just around the corner. Get some practice. By the time. Feel some excitement. So I think we might see some interesting things. It may not be Klobuchar. I don't think she's got that presidential thing. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see the VP pick if Biden continues to run.
I don't know who else. I mean, if it's not going to be Klobuchar, she's the only one that really makes sense, though, because who are you going to pick? Stacey Abrams? Well, Stacey Abrams thinks she's the governor of Georgia, right? In her own little world.
It's going to be a female. We know that. It's going to be a female.
Well, I mean, Biden said that he was absolutely going to pick a female as a running mate, right? So he painted himself in that corner. Me personally, regardless of party, I would rather you pick the most qualified individual, as your running mate. Absolutely. I don't give a shit if they're male or female. I just want the most qualified person in the White House. And then who else you got? You got Kamala Harris. Dude, you're not going to pick Kamala Harris. She's a complete
nothing,
disaster.
Right? From California. Yeah. I mean, she's not going to bring you nothing as far as voters go.
Yeah, she's not going to bring you anything as far as voters go, and that just means you have two racists on the ballot. With her. And so who else is out there? Pete Buttigieg? I think they're saving Pete.
Well, are you saying, are you confusing his gender? Or because you said female and then you said Pete Buttigieg. What are you doing, Josh? You trying to offend people? What's going on?
Who am I to assume his gender? Who am I? How dare you? How dare you?
You need to spend some time with woke AJ Todd. That's all I'm saying.
I heard that dude wrote a pretty good book.
So, yeah, but so you guys think Klobuchar now?
I've said that from the beginning. Anybody who else that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a train wreck. It's a good time to not be a Democrat. It's an even better time. Count your blessings.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anybody that he could pick that would not be on the same level, like when McCain picked Palin, right? And you were just like, oh, you pick Palin? All right, that's game. You know, and Sarah Palin's nice, and, you know, she said some things I agree with, but other than that, it was just like, dude, that's not you. Like, you were not going to beat a very popular president with that team. You know, McCain and Palin. And granted, I'm not going to get started on McCain and get us off topic here.
He just did that 2 days ago, and I'm reading this as I Google it. They asked Klobuchar to undergo the VP vetting, right? And I think even Elizabeth Warren's name has popped up over the last 4 or 5 days, and it looks like on the backside they're trying to reshape her platform with this whole healthcare for all, yada yada yada, to move her closer towards, closer towards the center where Joe Biden is. So again, give up your principles to go be the running mate for Joe Biden.
I don't think, I tell you right now, I don't think Warren has been around too long. She has been too vocal. She has been too fucking crazy. They are not.
Well, I mean, she'll bring you the Native American vote, right?
Yeah. I don't think they're going to, I don't think Pocahontas is going to be the, be the VP pick. It just not. It's funny. Somebody who lives on my street has a white Grand Cherokee, and he says he calls it Warren. Oh my God. I don't see it, man. Klobuchar is the only one that makes sense. Unless they are just completely, like you said, man, if they're just completely trying to throw it and they're just trying to, they're just, going through the motions now, sure, go ahead and pick Warren, go ahead and pick Stacey Abrams. Maybe she'll, forget that she's not the governor of Georgia. Maybe after they lose the election, she'll run around for the next 2 years talking about how she's the vice president. Are we allowed to call her fat now? Are we allowed to call her morbidly obese? Well, Pelosi called Trump morbidly obese. So I mean, if the left says it's okay, then I think we can do it.
I think we just call her high risk for COVID-19. Right? Isn't that what it is? I'm not fat anymore. So all the listeners out there, when you see me, I am not fat. I'm just high risk for COVID-19. That's it. That's the new term.
She big bone. She big boned it. She big boned.
So now, and here's the thing with the vice president thing, and I'm just trying to, thinking off the top of my head. I mean, it seems to me off recent history, if you are the vice presidential pick on the losing team, it seems like your career is kind of done. So I mean, do they blow their wad on somebody like a Klobuchar or like I get the whole woman thing, but like you look at Mayor Pete, right? Would you blow your wad on that, knowing that, hey man, that might be the end of this guy or gal's career?
Well, what's her name? Mondale's running. Was it Mondale? His running mate? What was her name? She's point taken. It's like it's over. I can't think of a single one that moved on to bigger and better things after they lost. That's a good one.
No matter the party, right? No matter the party. I mean, like Paul Ryan, it's like, where's that guy been? I think he's in Biden's basement with him.
God, that's a good point. Can you think of one, Josh?
No, I was just trying to think back. I mean, after Bush Sr. Lost to Clinton, you didn't hear much out of Quayle.
This is so bad I can't even remember Gore's running mate.
Lieberman.
Lieberman. Well,
but Lieberman, I mean, it's hard for him though, because I mean, dude, Lieberman, man, he was up there, dude. He was old, bro. I mean, he was old when him and Gore ran.
This just further is a really good point on Roger's part, because, and I am getting up there like Joe Biden. I forget certain things, but I'm having a hard time remembering John Kerry's running mate.
So look at this. And I just got a quick list here, right? So you've got Tim Kaine, which now some of these obviously continued their careers in their state or whatever the hell they're doing. But we're talking about going on to bigger and better. You look at your Tim Kaine, you look at your Paul Ryan, your Sarah Palin, John Edwards. Where's that guy been, right? Joe Lieberman, Jack Kemp, Quayle, Lloyd Benson, Geraldine Ferraro. That's
Geraldine Ferraro. Hey, you remember Ross Perot, Admiral Stockdale?
Yes, that dude was nuts.
Dude, I remember during the debate, they asked him a question, and he was like, "Could you repeat the question? I didn't have my hearing aid on," and he had to reach up and he turns on his hearing aid. I was watching the debate, man. I was like, that dude's not getting elected.
He would just randomly yell gridlock. I remember that. Gridlock.
Yeah. Ross Perot always broke out. He was like, "Now I got a chart." You're like, "Oh boy, here we go."
There's a certain someone that's very close to me. You could say that we're married, and she voted for Ross Perot. And to this day, she rues that choice because it was just like, come on. What are the odds that a third party is going to run this time? Zero.
Or they're going to throw some bullshit candidate out there like they did the last one. If there was ever a time for a third party to become relevant in our government, it was the 2016 election. You had two very polarizing candidates, and it wasn't people who were like, I think Hillary's okay on this, not so much on that, or I think Trump's okay on that. It was they were very polarizing, right? It was either you love them or you hate them. That was the time. And who did they throw up there? What was it, Gary Johnson? Was that his name?
What is Aleppo?
Yeah. Like, bro, really? The third party, the independent party, right? And as much as people at that point, as people are dumb, people are fed up with the government. People are fed up with the status quo. They're fed up with career politicians. They're fed up with the bullshit. They're fed up with taxes, right? And the best they could do was Gary Johnson. What is Aleppo? It's like, dude, it has been in the news every night for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask what it is, like it's some kind of product, like it's some new widget. Yeah, it was
what happened was, I think it's a bad time to be a Democrat, right? It's a bad time to be in the Democratic Party because I think, if I had a conversation with a family member the other day about it, but are you really fired up about your candidates out there? Are you truly like, when I voted for Trump, I was fired up, right? I was like, hey man, I'm supporting, President Trump. I just don't get that same feeling with Joe Biden. I mean, are you truly fired up about Joe Biden? I mean, here's the other thing. I mean, the guy's got 30 some odd years in government, if not more. The one conversation I was having with the family member, because it's always empty rhetoric, right? They say, once you go to emotions or whatever, then, the argument's lost. But it's like, so what's he done in 30 years, 35 years, 36 years? It's like, hey, man, I'm all about having the debate on policies, especially with President Trump. You may not like him. We've said this before. You may not like him. Maybe he's not a nice guy. He's brash. He's arrogant. There's a million things that come to mind, right? But that's not what I'm voting for when I vote for a president. I look at the policies and their platform. And so I throw that out there with Joe Biden. I mean, what's the guy done in 30 some odd years? I mean, other than his own Secretary of Defense saying that he's been wrong on every foreign policy issue since the dawn of, mankind. But, I don't get it. I don't get that fired up feeling for Joe. I'm not even sure that I know what he stands for. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if he knows what he stands for anymore.
I'd have to dig really deep to find what he's accomplished. He's very proud of his record, as he told Charlemagne the God the other day when he made that gaffe. But yeah, there is nowhere near the energy level. And this is one of the reasons I think it's going to be a blowout. There's nowhere near the energy level there was for Hillary Clinton. There was something for people to get behind there. There was some energy on her side of the aisle. Unfortunately, more people hated her than loved her. Or fortunately, I guess. I think that this is going to be a low energy election on the Democrat side. And that's one of the reasons I think it's going to be a blowout. I think the Bernie people may actually pull the lever for Trump if they really are believers, because they're just like, screw this. And I understand where they're coming from. I get it. But where I don't understand is people who get fired up for Joe Biden. And that's why the running mate, again, to me is so crucial.
Now, do you think voter turnout is going to be low? I mean, that's an option, right? Is that the Democrats just don't show up at the polls?
Yeah, I think it's going to be low. Yeah,
I think it's going to be really low because I think you're going to see maybe You're going to see a lot of the Bernie Bros. I think they're just going to stay home. I truly think they're just going to stay home because again, Bernie got hosed, and you're going to see low voter turnout, and also people just aren't excited for Joe Biden. They're not these days just not excited for Joe Biden, and the Bernie supporters are going to, especially the diehard Bernie supporters, they're going to stay home.
People talking about mail-in and all that stuff. That district in California turned that on its head. People are so worried about mail-in and how, Republicans, they're better off when you vote in person. Well, that special election in California was majority mail-in, and the Republicans just completely annihilated. So, people worried about mail-in and all that stuff. I'm not so much worried about it. Are you, Roger?
You know what? It depends on where it's at. I mean, it's you have some states that are automatically going to fall to the left. You have some states that are going to automatically fall to the right. I'm not sure the numbers are really there to support widespread voter fraud. And I guess you'd have to break it down into districts. Like, there are some areas when you look at Michigan where was a Trump one like by 0.4% or something like that. It could be an absolute difference in some place like that. But across the board, I'd have to dig into it a little bit more to see what the spread was in the last election and exactly how many mail-in voters that we have. And I want to believe that it supports outside of voter fraud, which is what they're worried about. It supports more conservatives than it does liberals, which we can get into later. But that's probably another topic. Before I kick this back to Josh to wrap this thing up, I just I want to bring up one thing that's, I think in my mind, is pretty cool. Wednesday, there is a SpaceX launch to the International Space Station. So we have a couple astronauts that are going to go up to the ISS. And it is the first time since 2011 when who was in office? Oh, yeah, Barry was in office, and he ended the shuttle program. So we've had to, for those out there that don't know, we have had to catch a ride. Our astronauts have had to catch a ride with Russia, since 2011 to get to the International Space Station or go into space. So Wednesday, there's going to be a launch. I forget the time. You can Google it, find it yourself. I think it's like maybe 11:24-ish, something like that on Wednesday. But it's also the first time that a commercial company, right, has built this thing and is going to take up American astronauts for the government, for NASA. So, good luck to them. God bless them. Hopefully everything works out. On that note, I'll kick it back to Luke for one last thought.
I'd like to plug a former episode because on Sunday, this past Sunday, there was 30 for 30 ESPN with Lance Armstrong. And I haven't seen it yet, but I can't wait to see it. And I can't wait to hear what he has to say. So why don't y'all go back, take a listen to episode 7 again, to cheat or not to cheat. And y'all tell us if it fits in with the Lance Armstrong 30 for 30. I'd really like to hear what you think. And in June, there's going to be one on Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and Barry Bonds. So again, I think that if you go back and listen to episode 7, to cheat or not to cheat, I think we're probably right. Nostra Lucas over here. Now, also give a quick shout out to Ryan Thumb, Skinny Bigowitz, and Hank Klein. Remember, if you don't give us 5 stars on iTunes, you ain't a canteener. Josh?
All right. Hey, so this does it for another episode of Culper Canteen Cup. Again, we really thoroughly appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to us. Tell your friends about us. You get a chance, get onto your favorite podcast app, whatever you're listening on right now. Just take 15, 20 seconds, give us a rating and a review. Hit that subscribe button. That way you're automatically notified when the next one comes out. Again, we appreciate Carlton Zeus for the intro music. You can hear more of his music on Apple Music or at carltonzeus.com. And one last time, hey, if you're looking to support a small veteran-owned business, hop on Facebook, Instagram, check out Veteran Owned US, or you can check them out on the interweb at veteranownedus.com. All right. Hey, your canteen cups filled. Keep them tightly secured, and we'll see you down the road.